Without any further ado, Carl, thanks very much for joining us. Welcome to 702. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming through, Carl. I mean, you are very close to this issue, and just tell me, as a standing committee, what precipitates this drastic move of wanting the Department of Defense to be placed under administration?
Well, perhaps I should just explain that there are two committees for defense in Parliament, the Joint Standing Committee and also the Portfolio Committee. It was, in fact, the Portfolio Committee for Defense and Military Veterans that said that the Acting Director General, Ms. Mafu, of the Department of Military Veterans should immediately be suspended on the basis of detailed information that we have about corruption and maladministration from her side and other senior members of her department. We have also said that we believe that the Department of Military Veterans has become so dysfunctional because of maladministration and corruption that it should be placed under administration in terms of Section 100 of the PMFA. But we said we will engage with the Presidential Task Team on Military Veterans in order to see what interventions they can make before that recommendation for the department to be placed under administration should be implemented. So tomorrow the Portfolio Committee is going to have a meeting where the letter that we will send to the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans demanding that the Acting Director General for the Department of Military Veterans should be suspended will be discussed, and then that letter will be forwarded to the Minister.
Carl, just take us back a little bit. The matter of the DRC and the controversy that was involved with our troops being stuck in DRC and other people asking why is it that they were there to start off with. Was it maybe a straw that broke the camel's back to bring attention to this matter, or over time you have been noticing specific deficiencies in the department that warrants this?
Look, overall, the Department of Defense is in a very serious crisis. And I've warned, as the EFF's permanent representative on the two defense committees, that the Department of Defense is in the throes of collapsing. So the issue that you raise with regards to the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the SANDF's deployment there as part of the SAMI DRC, which was a disastrous deployment because we didn't have the equipment to back up our troops in the DRC. We didn't have the resources. Our troops were not adequately trained. And the sad consequence was that 14 of our troops died early this year. Now, the result of all of this means that we need to have an urgent intervention to turn the Department of Defense around. And the sad reality is that despite the Defense Review of 2015, which had never been implemented, and despite promises from the department and from the minister that there will be a so-called document in terms of a road to greatness that will be presented to us, and which was also supposed to have been presented to the president in October already last year, we've not seen any strategical indication that the department knows where it's going and how it is actually going to develop a defense force that is fit for purpose. So this is a crisis, and it is in the context of that crisis that the Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans has been intervening, and where the Economic Freedom Fighters has taken a lead to insist that urgent and drastic action needs to be taken. Amongst those actions, we've said that the current command and also the minister and the two deputy ministers are incompetent, and they should be relieved from their duties, and the department should get a new leadership that will be competent and will be able to implement a defense review and bring about a strategic analysis of what is required for us to have a fit-for-purpose defense force.
And obviously, Section 100 would clip the wings of the ministry, and especially as far as funding is concerned as well. This would then mean that the department is taken care of. I would assume by whom in this instance.
Well, let me specify the specific recommendation for Section 100 of the PFMA is for the Department of Military Veterans, not for the whole Department of Defense. Remember, the Department of Military Veterans sorts under the umbrella of the Department of Defense, and the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans is Mrs. Angie Motshega. So, yes, we want to see the Department for Military Veterans to be placed under administration. And we do want to see an increase in the budget for the Department of Military Veterans, similar to the fact that we want to see an overall increase in the budget for the Department of Defense. At the moment, the budget for the Department of Defense is only 0.75% of GDP. We believe that it should be a minimum of 1.5%, and in fact, that it should follow the international norm of 2% of GDP. But in order to increase the budget in this way, especially for the Department of Military Veterans, we as a portfolio committee felt that it would be irresponsible for us to ask for more money when there are not adequate capabilities in the department and adequate administration to spend the money properly, and also where there's been no consequential action for the huge amount of corruption and material irregularities that have been identified
part of which,
in the department.
Part of which, Carl, part of which you are complaining about the fact that there are many ANC deployees in the department. You are complaining about employees who've been on books for more than a decade without contributing much to the effective management of the department. How has this concern been met by especially the chair of the committee and the department itself? Is it landing on fertile ground, or is it going to be the perpetuation of status quo, where things continue to be the way they are and the storm will pass and they will move on to other things?
Well, I can ascertain you that the Economic Freedom Fighters is not going to allow this to continue, and we will not allow it to be swept under the carpet, none whatsoever. There are huge amounts of money that have disappeared. There's huge amounts of equipment in the Department of Military Veterans that cannot be accounted for. So we will continue to push. Sadly, we've not found from the side of the minister that she's showing the required preparedness to act. And as you pointed out, it seems that the Department of Military Veterans has become a repository for incompetent ANC cadres and cadre deployment there. And on the other hand, there's a large number of posts in the Department of Military Veterans that are unfilled, senior posts, and there's a large number of acting posts. But I must hasten to add that I think the Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans, including the chair, is fully aware of the situation. I've certainly made certain that as the EFF's representative on that committee and someone who has been very closely and for long involved in the issue of military veterans, that these issues remain on the agenda, and we will make sure that these issues are adequately addressed. We will not let them go. I have written a 16-page letter to the Minister of Defense and her two deputy ministers, which I've also tabled in the Portfolio Committee on Defense, which details the corruption of the Acting Director General, Ms. Mafu, and her other senior officials, including also a very disturbing report called the Nexus Report that reveals the rot in the Department of Military Veterans. So we will pursue these matters until they are addressed.
Very, very important. I just want us to get, if you will, just lead to some of the to meet here that is often on the bone, that the department operates on a budget of almost $1 billion at about 860 million. And we are told that 140 million goes to salaries. 142 is spent on administration. 158 million is allocated to veterans pensions, and more than 440 is used for educational assistance for veterans' children. Is it your issue as well that the budget can be best used differently and allocated differently, but also that there's a need to capacitate this department in order to be in a position to defend South African borders adequately?
Yes, absolutely. The Department of Military Veterans budget is skewed. The cost of employment is far too high. And let me hasten to add that this is cost of employment for incompetent managers who are not delivering. At the same time, the resources that are utilized for the 11 benefits that military veterans are entitled to with regards to the Military Veterans Act, number 18 of 2011, none of those 11 benefits are adequately actually given to the military veterans. If you talk to military veterans, they will tell you they do not get proper housing, they do not get proper health care, they do not get proper educational provisions. Because as you've pointed out in the way that you have described the budget, a far too small proportion of even that rather small budget, because to have an 800 million to 900 million budget for DMV is too small. It should be larger. But even that small budget is skewed, and a very small proportion of the budget is really utilized for what it is required to do, and that is to address the dire needs of our military veterans. And of course, overall, the same problem exists in the Department of Defense. Again, cost of employment is too high. Too little money is used for training. Too little money is used for force renewal. And unfortunately, the refurbishment of property, of buildings, of offices and houses, and also the maintenance of mission essential equipment is not given the kind of resources that it requires. So sadly, the Department of Defense has become a glorified employment agency rather than an adequately resourced military force.
Have you, as the department, reflected on the fact that it has been almost like a rolling door, a revolving door, I should say, the department's employment policy, where in the past 8 acting director generals have been there, and since 2015. That rotation is really worrisome because it also speaks to the issue of continuity, consequence management, but also institutional memory as far as management is concerned, because at that very critical and sensitive department.
The issues that you raise are all absolutely relevant. Yes, there have been a revolving door with far too many director generals and, in fact, acting director generals. It shows you that there's a serious problem within the HR division of the department, and that the senior management are incompetent and are unable to do their job. They get removed, but sadly they get replaced with similarly incompetent people who are unable to do their jobs. And the concern for us at the moment is that a very incompetent and very corrupt acting director general in the Department of Military Veterans has now been there for a long time, much longer than that what the law stipulates. The law says that an acting director general can only be kept in that position for a short period of time, and that there has to be very proper reasons, in fact, overarchingly strong reasons, to keep such a person in that position beyond the stipulated period of time. And that has not happened. So sadly, we see that the current acting director general is evidently protected by friends and cronies within the African National Congress because she's got very strong ANC ties. And this is being done at the cost of proper services to the military veterans of our country.
Carl, you seem to be singing from the same hymn sheet as the minister, because you would know she described the department as a shipwreck. She stated that many senior officials were chronically absent, while the rest were largely incompetent in handling the enormous responsibilities of the department. And this also means that she's very much aware of that. I'm wondering to what extent are you unable to exchange notes, as she is the political head of the department and you are an oversight body. How often does this happen? And perhaps it has happened. What are the fruits of this?
Well, we certainly do exchange notes. And you're correct to say that the minister has, at a number of occasions, said that there are serious problems in the department. But my problem with the minister is that it's all talk and no action. Despite the fact that the minister says it's a shipwreck, she has not dealt with the crisis in the department in any decisive way. In fact, what she had done is, under her leadership, when she became the new Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, this corrupt and incompetent acting director general was again reappointed on an open-ended basis with a letter that said you will be kept in this position until we can eventually find a competent director general. Now, surely there should be many competent managers in our government that can get this job, and yet it doesn't happen. So the minister is co-responsible. The fact that the minister tells us that there's a crisis in the Department of Military Veterans does not absolve her from her lack of action to address the crisis. And sadly, I must say to you, despite some of the relatively good statements that the minister had made, I'm convinced that she has become part of the problem and is not part of the solution. And of course, that part of the problem directly relates to her senior position in the African National Congress and the fact that the Department of Military Veterans has become a repository for incompetent ANC cadres and for their protection. And the minister is complicit in that process.
To an extent where it has been referred to as a playground for those who can't find jobs elsewhere.
Exactly.
But there's a lot to be said about this, and it's worrying because more than just the department doing this, it puts the security of the country at risk when we have so many shenanigans, especially playing themselves out on a public space about all of this. In closing, Carl, before I say goodbye to you, the department, the committee, to what extent can it compel or push for an inquiry of sorts that may result in effective action and consequences that the department will be held accountable towards?
It is the job of the committee to hold the department accountable. That is at the essence of our work and at the essence of the oath that each one of us as members of parliament have laid down. So we have the right to insist that there must be a proper defense review. We have the right to insist on accountability by the Department of Defense for the taxpayers' money that has been misspent and abused. And we have a huge responsibility to go to not only the minister, but also to the president as the commander-in-chief of the SANDF, and to demand that action now needs to be taken to ensure that the SANDF can be turned around. The current collapse is not just embarrassing. It is not just the terrible, sad situation, the tragedy of having lost 14 soldiers in the DRC, but it places our whole country's safety and, in fact, our sovereignty at risk. So this is an emergency, and Parliament has a duty to act on such an emergency, and the EFF will ensure that Parliament takes the necessary action, that there will be a defence review, and that we will
have to leave it at
address
that.
these issues and save our country and save our defence.
Carl, thanks for your time. Thanks for your time. We'll have to leave
much.
it at that. Sadly, I'm out of time. Really appreciate it. Carl Niehaus is EFF Member of Parliament on joint standing.